Hi, I'm Krista.
And I'm Sarah.
And we have this podcast called Have We Talked About? Where two friends at different points in their lives chat about everything in their lives.
From current events to pop culture, from self-care to self-indulgence, and everything in between.
Join us weekly to see what we talk about next. Hey, friend.
Hey, new week, new topic. What's going on?
Everything. Feeling so experienced now with this podcast thing.
We're like almost professionals.
Yeah, we are a step above novice, and we are consistently leveling up.
Let's hope. What do we? Oh, I'm very excited about the topic today.
I bet.
What are we chatting about, Krista?
I actually feel very nervous about this. We are talking about my dating life, my dating experience.
Bachelorette Krista, finding love with Krista. Yeah,
it's just like Bachelorette in the City, like my own Sex in the City. Low emphasis on the sex part.
Too funny. Yeah, I have some questions for you. I want to know all about dating in this city, what's going on, things like that. And I definitely want to hear some funny stories because I'm sure you have some funny stories that you can share with us.
I have some things that are interesting that speaks to how challenging dating can be, for sure. And just to confirm, I'm fully single. I'm not in an ethically non-monogamous relationship, and I think that clarity needs to be made because there is a very high prevalence of people that are in open relationships on dating apps.
Got it. And you are dating in the city of Toronto, trying to find your partner. It's
expanded beyond the city of Toronto because I think that well is dry for me. It expands all through the greater Toronto area, just shy of Niagara Falls on the west side.
Got it. Okay.
North side, yeah, I don't know. Like we're Richmond Hill, Markham, and then I don't even bother with the east side because I only go as far east as Yonge Street.
Oh my God. Okay. True downtown Toronto individual.
Yeah. Who was born and bred in the West End.
Got it. So I haven't dated for 16 plus years. And I wasn't around, or there weren't apps back then, right? So what are your go-to apps that you like to use to find potential dates or potential bachelors?
I'm not good at managing more than one app at a time, but I'm heavy on Bumble because I find more luck if I'm the one who is making the first move, sadly. But I also use it because I also use the networking, friend finding function of that as well to like meet with like-minded women in the city for like friendships, networking, opportunities, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm on Bumble pretty heavy in either one or the other category. So that's my go-to. I do sometimes try and switch it up and go to Hinge, but first, I just don't love it. I don't love the experience on there. And I've mentioned before, I'm banned from Tinder, so that's not an option. I don't do OkCupid or Plenty of Fish. I have done Match, which is one of the oldest. I haven't done that in a really long time. So yeah, I'm a bumblebee.
Got it. And do you want to share just like a brief history, like dating history of your life? Do you want to share if you've been in a long-term relationship or not, or no? Totally up to you.
I would say that I've been single for a really, really long time with a spattering of dating, smaller short-term relationships here and there with situationships that lasted longer than they were supposed to.
Got it.
That probably took me out of like long-term committed marriage. And I'm not saying that to say I am not to blame for that, because obviously if I wanted to be married and I had made that a focus, I would be. But I'm older and wiser now, and commitment is important to me. And so that's the mindset that I'm approaching dating with now. You need to marry me.
That's too funny. So when you're on the apps, or sorry, when you're on specifically Bumble, what are you looking for in the profile?
Ooh, it really depends on my mood. So I'm not going to pretend like I have the same framework every time I go in, because the sad reality is that when you're on the app is when you have downtime and you're bored, and not when you're like, yes, I need to focus my time on love and connection and do this the right way. I'm doing it while I'm unwinding from work and I'm swiping through. So sometimes I read the profiles, and a really good profile with a lot of banter will really get me to swipe right. But I would be remiss not to say that I do employ the male strategic approach of like, I swipe right on everybody and see what falls out from that.
Got it.
And then trim the fat from there. Anything too far on the fringe, left or right, I'm not interested in. If you're too, political standings matter, but don't matter to me because I consider myself moderate. So if you're too far left or too far right, probably not for me. I am always curious to know what somebody does as their job, because I just like to have a sense of what does that work week look like for you, but also, do we actually have something in common from like a work perspective so that we understand each other's world? So, you know, I'm not going to pretend that I would marry any type of guy in any stage in life, because that's not true, depending on how old they are. If everybody's making an honest living, but I'm at senior leadership kind of level in my career, I'm probably not going to date a guy who just drives a forklift. His problems and my problems are different, right?
Understood. Has there been any like amazing or fantastic or funny opener lines that guys will message you? Because sometimes they're like stupid. Oh no. Do you have an opener that you say like constantly?
I don't say anything interesting now. I just pick the day of the week, whatever day of the week it happens that I decide to like message them. I'll be like, happy Friday. I hope the week has been going well for you. Before, I used to like, Bumble would let you do automated opening lines and give you like some to use. I used to have this go-to one of like, this is my opening line, with an actual like graph of the line using like the underscore function. Yeah. So some liked it. I know one guy just said, you know what, you could have just said hi. And I'm like, okay, mister, I'm in my feelings. Like, so yeah, I mean, it's hard to take rejection in the beginning, but I've been on the app for a long time. So sometimes I knock them out of the park and sometimes I don't. It's just how the cookie crumbles. It's really hard to get a time where you're both conversing and you're both invested in the conversation. That's the trickiest part. Like, I messaged you yesterday because that's when I had time. You messaged me back today. Now my day is really busy and I don't have the focus to just like really connect with you. So now the conversation falls flat, or we have to ghost each other. Like, that's probably the biggest challenge.
Got it. And then when is the right time, or is there a right time for when you potentially like give, maybe you ask for their number or they ask for you number so you can take the conversation off the app?
Offline. I don't ever ask for the number. I will offer my number. I'm not afraid to give my number out. I know a lot of people are, because that used to be a thing of like a barrier, but in a working world where I've used my personal phone number as a work phone number, my number's out there in the ether as it is. So giving it to anybody at this point doesn't matter to me, because you're like, what are they going to do? Call me? Who calls people nowadays, right? Like,
True.
You're going to spam message me, or maybe you sell my phone number to a marketer. I don't know. It depends on the vibe. There's a cadence to moving offline into like texting or a phone conversation. And I find if guys want to do that right away, the connection dies very quickly, because there isn't even a check-in to say like, is the banter okay? Have we kind of felt each other out to just like warm up to each other to move to the phone conversation? So then the phone conversation becomes stilted and it becomes like an interview. So tell me what you do. Tell me what your goals are. Tell me why you're interested in pursuing a relationship with me. And it's like,
Like a first round interview. You're like,
yeah.
wow.
It's like, wow, if Kill My Vibe was a person.
Got it. That's funny. What do you consider a good first date, in-person first date to be? Like, is there a place that you go to or that you like to go to for your first date, or are you pretty casual about it?
It depends on the level of interest I have on the person. So like I could feel like a connection right away based on the banter, and maybe I want to do something fun, like grab a drink, but I'm not opposed to something more adventurous, like, oh, you want to go mini golfing or you want to do this. Most guys aren't offering those as options when they ask you out. So it's usually going to the bar for a drink. I don't have a go-to bar. I like to switch it up depending on where they live and where I live. So it's picking somewhere equal distance between if I can.
Makes
or
sense.
If I want to make minimal effort, I'll pick something like around the corner from my house. Or if I'm still not sure, but they're very eager and I'm not sure, then it might be just downgraded to a coffee date.
Got it. Understood.
It depends.
Understood.
Yeah.
Have you been on like a really bad first date?
So I want to clarify first date. I think in the dating world, there is no first date. There's like a first meet.
Okay, first meet.
Yeah.
First meetup.
So because I don't want to consider it a date. I'll just talk about the last date or meetup that I went on was with a guy who is in his 50s, divorced, has kids, and that's kind of a lot of guys that I meet at this point. I'm expecting that, you are divorced and you might have some kids, so that's kind of the norm. He had a British accent, which was appealing to me.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And we had some starts and stops with our conversations. We had matched a couple times. That's another thing that happens on the app. It falls off and you match with them again, and then you have the conversation again, and they either pretend that they didn't match with you before, or you pick up where you left off, where it's like, yeah, we've matched before, right? I don't have a perfect recall, but I do remember when I've matched with somebody before, obviously.
Yeah.
Not right away if they've changed their pictures.
Got it.
So yeah, there's a lot of start and stops with him. So I'm like, if I really want to do something or find out if there's an attraction, I need to finally meet this guy. So I really pushed to meet him. He had asked me a couple of times. The timing wasn't right. Met him. He picked me up. Horrible driver. And I said, because it was so last minute. I live in the city. I think it was Saturday. There's always issues with lines and stuff. So you have to be very careful of like where you go. But you can always go to a hotel bar, which is my go-to in those kind of last minute in a clutch situations.
Good tip.
Yeah.
Good tip.
Let's just find the hotel, go to the bar. There's always going to be like something weird going on, different people from all walks of life, right? Like there's like an energy there that's probably good. So that's what we did. He picked me up. He admittedly said he was a horrible driver. It was only like 2 blocks, but I was terrified the whole entire way. And I don't normally get them to pick me up, but because he wasn't sure about where he was going, that's how that ended up happening. We sat down. He complained the entire time.
About what?
About he's pissed off for how much taxes they take out. He was trying to buy tickets for an event, and how Ticketmaster is a thief, and Pearl Jam, refused to work with them, and there's this whole book on it. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Because I have my own knowledge of the insider ticketing business because I've worked within that industry before. But, he obviously knew better than me, so I just let him carry on. He complained that he regretted being a father, but he loves his kids.
What?
Yeah, and these aren't I never talked to him on the phone before. We never had any deep conversations. He kind of called out that he's like, oh, I'm doing all the talking, and it doesn't seem like you're really into me. Well, duh.
Awkward.
Like, you're complaining about everything. Like, you're setting the stage for how you live your life every day. And it's just like killing my vibe completely.
Oh my God.
We all have moments of frustration and venting, but like off the jump.
So how did you like wrap up the date as quickly as you could?
As quickly as I could. The cherry on top was in the beginning of the conversation when we first started talking. He said, I know that you're looking for a relationship and I'm not right now. And I'm concerned because I don't want to mislead you. He's like, I'm just coming out of a really bad relationship, so I want to take my time. So it's not out of the question, but I want to make sure where you stand, because he's like, I might not be ready to move forward in that way. And I'm paraphrasing, right? Like, this is just this is the overall gist of the conversation.
Well, I appreciate the transparency that he's giving you. Like, that's nice.
So I'm like, I understood too. Like, I didn't go in with my eyes closed, where it's like, there's obviously an attraction because we keep connecting and talking. So let's just see what that looks like in person. Because I've also been so into a guy who was really good at being able to take his time and have this banter online. And then when you meet them, they're just not that witty in person, right?
Right.
So I'm like, let's just meet. And then if I'm not attracted, it doesn't matter what he wants or what I want. We just move on. So the cherry on top was, the reason why he wasn't looking for a relationship wasn't based on his alcoholic, abusive ex-girlfriend. It was because he was in love with another woman.
Oh my God.
Who wasn't ready for a relationship, who he was waiting on. Oh. And it was one of the 3 women that he had sex with in the last 24 hours.
Oh my God.
Because he's like, I know I don't look like much. He goes, but I can pull women.
Okay.
Like, I never questioned either or, but thank you for the transparency. It was very important that he tell me that he is very sexually wild and fluid. So he's also been to orgies, and he's like, God, experimented sexually, and he's like, yeah, I've just really opened up in the last couple of years. I'm like, yeah, okay. Probably should put that on your profile though.
Probably.
So then, the date wrapped up. Maybe we were gone for 2 hours, maybe.
And then you never spoke to him again?
Yeah, never spoke to him again. Unmatched again after that point, and carried on. He unmatched me. That's another thing too. I'll just leave it. I'll just leave the conversation there in Bumble, and I'm like, I'm not doing any more work. If you can unmatch me, my friend. Because I'm completely fine to just not message you again. Just like when people are like, why don't you block them? I'm like, why? I know I'm never going to talk to them again. The phone number just stays there, so it stays there. And I have enough self-discipline not to act on that. Exactly.
Jeez, that sounds like...
Is that fun or what?
Yeah, not really. Do you have any, like, hilarious meetup stories, or even like communication with a male over the app?
I would say that I've gotten so many dick pics recently, and they're
oh my God.
And I unsolicited dick pics that I feel very clinical and doctor-like, in the sense that I just look at it as a biological reproductive organ, as a penis. That's how many of them I feel like I've seen. That it's like, this is no reaction.
They just send it to you for fun?
They send it if we're in a conversation and we're talking about stuff, or meeting up, or attraction, or something like that. The way that I have settled it in my mind is that if a guy is attracted to you sexually in that moment, he wants to show you that he's attracted, and their way of doing it is to send a picture of their erect penis.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I'm like, I guess I'm flattered, but like, also I will check the details and the metadata to see if that is a fresh pic or that's just a reused dick pic.
That's funny. Jeez. Okay, so anyone that's, recently going on the apps, just prepare for potential dick pics. Okay, that's a good tip.
Yeah, and people aren't going to be always honest about where they stand. Sometimes people aren't actually clear about whether they're in a relationship or they're kind of rebounding, and I find that happens a lot. That they're not truly ready. Because they fall off the face of the earth, or maybe you're a second choice or a third choice, and then the person that they really want, gives them full attention, and you get ghosted, or you ghost. Like, I'm not saying that I ghost just as much as I've been ghosted, but it looks different depending on who you're dating. So I'm talking to guys in their 50s, talking to guys in their 30s, and then I have this little 20-something-year-old added to the mix. Because I do, for some reason, attract younger men a lot of the time in their late 20s, which is like, that's a lot younger than me. Like, that's like a decade younger than I am, right? And the times that I will match just to see like where are you at with your mind, because like I'm always curious about where people stand, and that's when guys are at their most honest, at least from my perspective as an older woman. And it's usually because they want more sexual experience. A lot of the guys are not getting enough what they feel like is sex based on being a young man. And they're like, oh, well, an older woman is in her sexual prime. So,
brother.
And obviously the only thing she wants is a young body. So because my body is young,
right,
she's obviously going to jump on that. I don't speak on behalf of all women. That's definitely never where my mindset goes. Like nothing. I don't have any care in the world about how young your body is from a sex perspective. What I'm concerned is are you good at it? At my age, I'm not dealing with mediocre sex. So I don't know where you get that mindset from. I'm not here to teach you. If anything else will kill my sexual attraction is a younger guy saying, well, you can help me and do this and make me better. And it's like, because like, no. I have an incest fantasy, like if I have to teach you like I'm your mother, like that is the opposite of sexual attraction.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So anyway, I still talk to this guy because also I am a certified coach on the side. So when I see people struggling, I like to like direct them, and he feels like he just needs a bit of direction and he's a bit stuck. But he's very expressive, which I enjoy, because guys that I talk to that are in their 50s don't tell me how they actually feel. So it's always a guessing game. Like, are you protecting your heart? Do you really like me? You know, am I one of your options? As guys get older, it seems that they become more guarded because they have more baggage, right?
Right.
So the dick pic never changes depending on the age.
Oh my God. Jeez Louise.
And some guys think that's enough. I've sent you a picture of my dick, and I tell you that I want to engage in those type of activities with you. Why don't you want to go out on a date with me? Well, because you got to fuck my mind, my guy.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, so again, Krista in the city, looking for late 20s to like early 50s.
Yeah, right? Like that is such a broad range. Like, I'm so open. You're making it sound.
Yeah. Well, you
but
like
not
to
short.
talk to different people in different walks of life and kind of see where the conversation goes.
But I won't deal with you if you're short.
Oh, okay. So if you're short.
I do have a height
requirement.
Yeah. Every once in a while, though, I'll move the needle down. Be like, okay, you can be 5'9" and above. But
oh my God.
I've had relationships with guys that were my height, 5'6" and 5'8". Mm-hmm. And there's the ones that I tend to attract that fall in that height range have Napoleon complex. And I don't want to deal with that at all.
Got it. Jeez. Is there any, like, maybe advice you could give people that maybe are new to the apps or maybe are struggling and can't, connect with anyone on the apps? Is there any advice that you can share? Your wisdom?
Well, I'm hesitant to give wisdom because if I'm still single, then is what I'm doing working? But I understand that I might be more selective than most. But in order to minimize rejection, you should cast your net as wide as possible. Swipe on lots of guys. Lots and lots and lots of guys, because then the rejection and that sting is a lot less because you're talking to a few guys and not just on that one guy that you've fallen in love with his picture. There's always going to be a ranking to like all the ones that you swiped on based on your personal preference. Ask the clarifying questions, even though it seems like people should tell you stuff. You should ask them, are you looking for a relationship? Because that's what your profile says. If it says I'm not sure, clarifying that. Sometimes you need to clarify if they have children. They don't put that on the app, and then it turns out they have grown kids. I'm like, are you in a relationship, an open relationship? Are you in a relationship or no? The next question is, does someone think they're in a relationship with you?
Ooh.
And then also, you know, if they say they're recently divorced or separated, I'm like, do you maintain separate houses as a result of that arrangement?
Ooh, good question.
Because there are some people. I did go on a date with a guy a few years back, and he was here on a work trip, but he was separated from his wife for a few years, but they still lived in the same house.
Oh, weird.
Right?
Yeah.
And okay, maybe you don't put that in a bio. I don't know, like, because that's like maybe too private and too much information. But it's a small niche of people that are going to be okay with that.
Yeah, valid. That's valid.
What other advice can I give? Go in with a low expectation. Don't treat it like a job interview. Be real about what you actually want from that person. Like, do you want a guy who is going to take care of you? Do you want just a hookup? Are you willing to have some boundaries? Like, you shouldn't be just going along with whatever the other person wants.
Right.
If it becomes too much or gets too negative, take a break.
I do feel like it's almost like a part-time job.
It is.
You know, being on all the apps and communicating with all the people. I feel like it takes up a lot of time. So if you do need to take a step back, take that time.
Because you're expected to like meet all these people, make connections, and that takes mental space to actually try and connect with someone and really dig into their life or their pictures and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's an investment. So yeah, we don't always have the time for that. And maybe just like be transparent of like, hey, I really want to connect with you, but I'm going to be busy for the next couple of days. So my replies will be different, or I'm not going to be able to chat as much. What I have learned is that guys in their older years, if you do say that you're talking to a lot of people, it does make them fall back or unmatch. The idea
they get a little nervous and scared.
Yeah, the idea or the prospect of competition, based on my experience and the sample size that I'm working with, is a put off for men, which is crazy. Where it's like, I can't just always just be talking to one person, and talking to one person doesn't mean I'm going on a date with that person. It doesn't mean I'm kissing that person. It doesn't mean I'm having sex with that person. So the fact that you think that you are doing that and that's okay, and then I'm getting a perception that you're like, oh, you're talking to other people, well, take me out of the running, is preposterous to me for a gender that is supposed to be competitive. And I'm not saying, and I'm not using that as a ploy either, but it's just like, in transparency, it's like we're all on the app, and if I'm still on the app, that means I'm talking to people. Right.
Yeah, valid. That's valid.
Do you have any advice for me as a person who has been out of the game? I mean,
you're funny. No, not really. Like, again, I don't know that world because when I
appreciate that.
Started dating my now husband, like, there was no apps back then. And we met because we met each other at our first job in high school. Right? So it's very, very different, 15 years ago versus now. So no, I really can't. I just think it's a huge undertaking if you decide to go on the apps and start that. And it's kind of a roller coaster, because then, I have some friends that, they get really excited about, like, this guy sounds really great. And we meet him, we go on a date or two, and then they get ghosted.
Yes.
And then and then they go all the way down, and they get sad and depressed and everything like that. So I think it's tough on people.
Date. I would love to get to a third date, but it doesn't get
there.
Oh
yeah. Really, eh?
Yeah. And also, my life is even more busy than it used to be, and I'm not saying that to have a flex or anything, but I have a regular job. This is now a side job. I have personal family stuff that I have to attend to as well, so that my time is very limited, so I do have to be selective. But I do say that in my bio, that I don't have a lot of free time, and I'm willing to wait or take time to get to the right person, because they need to know that, but they are also strangers. They don't need to know all of my business.
So what do you think is the best, like, season to to date, or is there a good season? Are people more on the apps during a particular season, like specifically patio season in Toronto? Is it more active?
Right. It's a good question. I would say that it's changed in recent years, and I would say definitely in change in COVID. COVID actually was probably where there were the most online members and memberships because
people didn't know what else to do.
Exactly. There's nothing else to do, so people had no choice but to try and like put in effort and make connections. So that was probably where I felt like I was the most successful, because I was dating a guy as a result of COVID from that, because you're like, what else are you gonna do? It didn't work out, obviously. I'm not doing polyamory now. Is it more predominant in the patio season? I don't think so, but I did take like a year's break last year, so I can also say I don't know. So I'll let you know this patio season. There definitely is an uptick during what they call the cuffing season, which is the winter months, for those of us that see real winter, meaning colder temperatures.
Oh.
Yeah. There's an uptick in inventory of people looking, but people looking for hookups. One thing that I realized during the most recent maybe holiday season or fall season is that guys, and I'm not generalizing that only guys do this, but I only date guys, they want everything but the responsibility of a relationship. So every guy is like, I'm willing to travel to you, but I don't want anything serious. I'm willing to be exclusive and monogamous with you, but I don't think I'm ready for a relationship yet.
Interesting. Do they give you a like as to why, or they're just, I came at a long-term relationship, I'm not in the right mindset, or it's just like, nah, not into a relationship?
I don't usually dig in, because those conversations end up happening because they have put on their profile that they're not sure what they're looking for. So this is the option to say like, unsure of what you're looking for versus casual or like relationship. So then that's what I ask, because they're like, what are you looking for? And I'm very clear, like I'm willing to wait, but a relationship, a long-term commitment, a marriage is kind of what I'm looking for. I'm not a spring chicken. But then they try and convince me that they're like, but you get all the things. Like, I will come to you, I will hang out with you. Well, we'll have the monogamy from the intimacy perspective, but I just don't want to do anything with you outside of the intimacy, because I don't want that part of it. I don't want to be obligated to like connect with you every day. I don't want to be obligated to like do things with you and like deal with your shit.
That's so interesting.
And that doesn't change through the age ranges either. It's still very much like, the guy in his 20s that I'm talking to still very much wants to just have a hookup, but everything that he tells me is like, but I don't want you to hook up with anybody else, and I want us to just chill out, and I want it to be more than like, a hookup once or twice a month, like a couple of days a week, and just chill. And it's like, okay, but again, you're just demanding all of these things, and I want some emotional support.
Yeah, exactly. Give and take in a relationship.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, is there any other tips or advice you could give people that are on these apps that are struggling, or anything at all that you could provide to them?
I think at the end of the day, it's everybody's journey and experience. So I would never want to project what someone should do based on like their dating style or their attitude towards life or who they are in their heart as a person. But I vet and try and vet guys as much as possible, because in this day and age with social media, from both sides, from the female side and the male side, nobody's presenting the real version of their life.
Of course not.
Right? Like, I have a great life, everything's great, I have the best days, in terms of how I experience it as a straight woman dating men. They're lying about their job titles, they're lying about their age, they're lying about their height, lying about their relationship status, they're lying about whether they have kids.
So you're telling me you go into CIA mode and creep the fuck out of them on social media?
Yeah, but I don't do it. I don't interact with them to make it seem like it's an interrogation. I have the regular banter, but I just ask questions. And then if a question is unclear and we keep going on, I will circle back with that question in a different way to see how that answer changes. I just slowly piece stuff together just to get a sense of like, are you, like, do I detect deception? And it's not to catch you. I'm not here to be like the gotcha girl, but at the same time, I don't want to invest in somebody who just can't be upfront. But on the flip side,
yeah, exactly.
There's guys in the first interaction have told me their whole life story of trauma and abuse from the jump.
Too much.
Yeah, so there's a tempo that we have to maintain. So I don't want everything, but I just want basic things to be like true.
Yeah, there's a fine line. Yeah. Until you build that trust up and that rapport up, then you can open up more and more. Don't just spill your guts in the first hour of talking to someone.
Like, I didn't know my dad until last year, and you know, I worked with him 2 years ago, and I didn't even know, and it's just pages and pages and pages, God. And yeah, I can't deal with that. So yeah, it's just like I want it to be more than a professional interview, but less than a therapy session with just like more honesty, integrity in between. And
makes sense.
You want me to use recent pictures, like, you know, fine. I also want you to use recent pictures. I do feel there's a hypocrisy and double standard where guys are always like, are your pictures current? And it's like, your pictures are not current, sir.
Oh my God.
And you know, your pictures are showing you in a light that you don't look like in real life. So if you're telling me you're being catfish, it's because you are a catfish.
That's funny.
But, you know, what I'm trying to say here, Sarah, is that it's all fun. Like, I'm enjoying myself, right? Like, it's a fun ride. It's an interesting experience. And when it gets to be too much, I just turn it off and then redirect and focus on myself.
And I think that's important to note. Like, once you know, sometimes you just need to take a step back,
right? Reevaluate
everything, and then, you know, focus on yourself for a bit and then jump back into it again, because it's a lot. It is a lot.
Right? Like, it's just, yeah. I mean, I'm not married with kids, and that's a lot. And it's just like doing life alone is like, I really would find a partner, but that's a lot too, because it is like applying for another job, but the job is trying to secure like a support person, like your lobster for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Do you find when people post on social media about their engagement, their wedding, their kids, or whatever, it triggers something in you, or you're just you don't care about that?
I don't feel triggered. I am genuinely happy for those people in relationships that are sharing the relationships, and I know that they're true and authentic, and I'm like, I'm happy for you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
But I can also tell when people are posting, you know, pictures or, you know, making posts that suggest everything is okay when it's not okay.
Yeah.
It's very clear when someone is genuinely happy and enjoying themselves, and when they're trying to convince you that they're okay.
And what are some examples of that? Because I know some I think I know some examples. Because it still affects me. Although I'm married and have 2 kids, like, I still get affected by that too. And I'm like, what the fuck? What is wrong with me? Social media, like, get out of here.
I mean, I don't follow people too intensely that I know everybody's day to day, but certain people have certain vibes with how they're posting, and then all of a sudden the vibe may change. Like, you don't see posts for a long time, and then you see this post that seems to be out of the ordinary and very specific and long, or they post too much of every day of like, just here with my boo, just here with my best life, and it just seems so contrived. But then you could also know somebody and know in the back end, hearing from somebody else, like, you know, there's gossip that goes around, right? So you hear the gossip, and then you see the post, and you're like, well, that's not what's happening.
That doesn't add up.
No. Like, she's trying to save her marriage, but that is not gonna happen. It's not gonna work out, girl.
That's funny. That's too
But
funny.
I'm curious to see what you see when you see something that you're like, that's not authentic.
Yeah, I think, again, this is just my opinion. Yeah. I think when people post super long captions on a picture, I'm like, Are you trying to like explain yourself for some reason?
Right.
That's a little sus to me. Or if people like randomly start posting like all the time, like so frequently, I'm like, what's going on?
Exactly. It's like a vibe. It's like a paranormal vibe. Where it's like this is something is not right here.
Yeah, exactly. Too funny. Well, I think we should make this Finding Love a series, and we can follow your journey. Maybe every few months we can touch base with how it's going on your end, Krista.
No pressure on my
if
end.
you have any new or funny or bad stories or dates or anything like that, and we can just continue to follow you.
Sure, I'm not opposed to that. I think a good idea in the sense that we are diametrically opposite is that we should also talk about your story, more specific to your babies and your baby story and that journey. And I think that would be also a good idea to include in our episodes so that we're seeing it from my single life side and your married mom side.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, I have you recorded, so it's a legal document that can be upheld in any court. So with that being said, I would love the listeners to chime in if they're single or they have dating advice. And as always, to rate and review because we love feedback, positive and opportunistic. And if there isn't anything else, Miss Sarah, I will be so happy to meet again with you next week.
Chat with you next week.
Bye, girl.
Bye.